What's up guys? It's Matt from More Music Sessions. In this video we're going to go over some basics for guitar. So normally this is what I cover when we first meet up if it's your first guitar lesson, and we're going to go cover some of the basics and fundamentals that'll get you started with moving around on the instrument. So the first thing I want to talk about is how we tune a guitar. So the way that you can remember the tuning of the guitar is like this. We'll use a mnemonic device. Okay, so the string that's closest to you is even considered your sixth string. Okay, normally with guitars, we count them, with the string closest to you as 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So those 6 strings, you can use a mnemonic that goes like this: Eddie, 8, dynamite, goodbye, Eddie. The first letter of each one of those words tells you the string that we're going to tune up on the guitar. Eddie, E, 8, A, dynamite, D, good, G, bye, B, another Eddie over here. So you have 2 E's that we've got on the guitar. All right? Because if you're not familiar, but in the musical alphabet, we only deal with 7 letters. All right, we only have A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. But besides those 7 letters, we have 5 other notes that we're dealing with. And you can all trace it back to the piano, okay? So the piano, we have white keys and black keys. The white keys are all the regular notes, the natural notes we call them. The black keys get 2 names. They can either be sharp note or a flat note. And we'll talk about what symbols we use for those notes going forward, but you're still going to be using the same letters, just those 7 letters, either sharp or flat or natural. Okay? So back to tuning our guitar. So we talked about the 6th string right here. We got Eddie, 8, dynamite, goodbye, Eddie. All right. So when you're tuning your guitar, you're going to want a guitar tuner. I have one that's latched on my headstock right here that I use. And you're welcome to use a tuning app that if you have a smart device that you can use. But I would suggest having both, either a physical tuner or a tuner you can use with one of your other devices. But when you're tuning your guitar, you want to make sure that when you pluck the string, the pitch registers right in the center of the note. Okay? So when I pluck it, I want to be able to see everything light up right in the middle. If it's too far to the left, you're too flat, which is considered below the pitch. And if you're too far to the right, after you pluck it, then you're considered sharp. You're too above the pitch. You want to make sure you're right in the middle, all right, as much as you can. Now, you see how even with my tuner, if I'm plucking it, I don't know if you can see that, but see how it's lighting up blue when I'm right in the middle there? That's what you want to shoot for. So if you want to lower the note, a lot of times with your strings, the tuning pegs that we've got here, you would twist it to the right. All right, you hear how that pitch goes down? And if you want to raise the pitch, then you twist to the left. Think of counterclockwise, all right? See how that works, right? Now, another thing to watch out for when you're tuning up, make sure the E, A, D, G, and B notes that you see don't have either a lowercase b looking symbol or a hashtag looking symbol. Because if you see one of those next to a letter, that tells you that is a black note, okay? The lowercase b looking symbol is considered a flat note, which is, like we said, a lower pitch, right? And sharp symbol is a hashtag symbol where you're raising the pitch, where you're above the pitch. Okay, and we'll talk more about that as we go further with these different videos. But yeah, make sure it's all the natural notes that show up with your tuner. Okay, so I'm gonna make sure that I'm right in the center of the E here. And when you're tuning it up too, a good method to do is to pluck the string, let it ring out, and then make sure that it settles in, right? And you want to pluck the strings how you would expect that you're going to be playing them too, right? Try not to go too aggressive. Yeah, we'll talk about even in a sec how we can hold the pick and articulate with your hand, with your plucking hand here. But that's how we tune up the strings, okay? So now let's talk about some other things that'll help you navigate around the guitar. So if we're talking about our fingers over here, these are this hand right here is your fretting hand, okay? So a fret are these blocks that you have on the neck of the guitar, okay? So the way that we count frets is like this. If you have an open string, this would be considered your 0 fret, okay? And if you got your finger on this fret right here, remember a fret is a block on the neck, this would be your 1st fret. If you keep going higher, you go to the next number, 2nd fret, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, etc., right? So different guitars will come with different amounts of frets. My guitar has 22 frets. But some guitars might come with 18 frets, 20 frets. But a good way to know where you are on the neck starting out is even a lot of times with the guitars, they'll give you dots on the neck of the guitar. So you see how I've got some dots right here? These are telling you the odd number frets, okay? So you've got, this will be the 3rd fret. A lot of times you'll start with the 3rd fret with the 1st dot. Some guitars will start with the 5th fret, which is the next dot here. So you've got 3rd fret, 5th fret, 7th, 9th, and then when you get to the double dot, that is your 12th fret. So that's the only even number dot fret that we run into. And the 12th fret tells you the octave of the open string. So if you're not familiar with the term octave, octave is the same note, only higher or lower. So if I'm playing this E, and I play the 12th fret, that's the same pitch, only higher. You hear how it sounds the same? You get low E, high E, right? So that's an octave. Because we talked about earlier too, how if you're even looking at the piano, you've got the white keys and the black keys. The 7 letters, or regular letters, natural notes, that are in lower and higher ranges. And then the 5 black keys that are in lower or higher ranges. So you get the 7 white keys plus the 5 black keys, you get those 12 notes. All right? So now let's talk a little bit about our fingers, okay? So our fingers, we number like this. Our index finger is our 1st finger, okay? So we've got 1st finger, 2nd finger, 3rd finger, 4th finger. And when you place your finger down on the string, you want to get the tip of your finger on the string. The sweet spot that you want to be placing your fingers down on is either in the middle of the fret or on the bottom edge fret, where I have my 1st finger right here on the 1st fret, right? And a lot of times with your 1st finger, you want to be at this like bottom edge area. If you're too far on the middle part of the fret, you can get a little bit of a damp kind of fret buzz sound, right? So find that sweet spot that you get a good tone. We'll keep talking about that as we go forward here as well. And I'm going to show you an exercise that you can get started with here. But before we do that, let's even talk about your thumb placement, okay? So where you want to be placing your thumb is flat on the neck of the guitar. So when you're putting it flat on the neck, if you took away the neck of your guitar, you can think of it like this, that you're pinching up against the index and kind of around the middle finger, okay? So with a lot of things that we're gonna do starting out, that is the technique that we'll use. And you'll run into, other technique that you might slide your thumb a little bit higher and press it on a string. But you want to avoid that for the time being, okay? So think of, placing your thumb where you're not too above the neck of the guitar or too below. You're right kind of like in the center, maybe a little bit like on the higher end. But again, like you're pinching up against, these fingers if you took away the neck. And avoid bringing your palm up to the neck of the guitar, because that's gonna, hinder you with just your movement starting out, okay? So thumb placement, getting the tips of your fingers on the string is gonna help with just moving around with more ease and fluidity, okay? So starting out with guitar, what we have to develop is our calluses on our fingers, okay? So we need to thicken up our fingers in order to move around with more ease and be less taxed and tired after moving around. So what we can do to start is, let's do this. I want you to place your first finger on the first fret of your first string. And another thing we can talk about too is the way that we describe where we put our hand on the neck of the guitar is based off of where your first finger is. All right, so if I have my first finger on the first fret, that tells me I'm in first position. If I put my first finger on the 7th fret, then I'm in 7th position. See how that works? If I'm on the 12th fret over here, then I'm in 12th position. So we're gonna start with these first exercises in first position. And before we do this exercise, let's try this first. What I want you to do is, get your thumb in a comfortable position on the neck, flatten it out, never get the tip of your thumb or bring your palm up. So you're gonna pinch up against the neck with your finger and get the tip of the index finger on the string. Now don't push down too hard right now, but what I want you to do is we're going to pluck very lightly, or we're gonna push down, that is, very lightly, and pluck the string each time that we're pushing down gradually, all right? So we're plucking, we're pushing down just a bit really softly, until you hear that first tone. That's the amount of pressure that you want to go with pressing up and pinching your fingers against the neck. All right. And now, before we even get into doing this exercise I'm talking about, let's talk about how you can hold the pick. So the way I like to have you guys hold the pick is like this. If you've got your thumb and your index finger set up kind of like a scissor motion, you want to place your pick in between the thumb and the index and have it positioned in this manner, okay? So that way you get the tip of the pick set up where you can strum down or do a downstroke. Downstroke is what we describe it as. And the pick is perpendicular to the strings. So if you're strumming down, this is a downstroke. If you're strumming up, this is considered an upstroke. Okay? So, yeah, and different picks will come with different strengths in gauges. So I prefer to use 0.88 millimeter Dunlop picks, but that'll be something that you can experiment with going forward. Is what feels good to you. I prefer this strength because I feel like, to me, it gives me a good balance where it's not too loose and it's not too heavy to where it's too tight. But try out some different kinds and see what feels good to you. But let's go back to doing the exercise that I want you to start out with. So I just showed you the amount of pressure that we want to go with, right? Where if you're plucking it and pushing down the string until you hear that first tone, you want to get used to that with each finger, right? And you can even do that with your third finger. Let's try that. So we're plucking. Remember, with your third finger, you want to try and get it in the center of the fret. You see where I have it placed, right? So that's going to be the sweet spot for this finger, on the edge, kind of more towards the bottom part of where you're placing your first finger. Okay? And a good habit to get into too is you want to keep your fingers down and anchor them the higher the finger that you go. Okay? So see how I have all my fingers down as I move around the neck? And we'll talk about, different nuance that comes along with where you're moving around with certain melodic shapes or exercises, patterns and stuff. But yeah, you want to get comfortable with anchoring your fingers down. Right? Yeah, where you get whatever finger you're dealing with, the higher you go, you keep those other fingers down. So let's try this exercise out before we start wrapping up this video. What we're gonna do, we'll eventually talk about different scales and different patterns you can go with. This is considered a finger pattern to get you started. But a lot of different songs and exercises they'll have you start with in a lot of method books is to play an open string and then your first fret and your third fret. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go with each string and we're gonna pluck the open string. We're gonna pluck the first fret with your first finger and then your third finger with the third fret. Okay, so 0, 1, 3, 0, 1, 3. And we'll start with your first string. So the high Eddie, okay? So yeah, and each one of these that you pluck, you can do a downstroke. So it's gonna go something like this. We're gonna go 0, 1, 3, 0, 1, 3, 0, 1, 3, 0. So that's going to be the exercise I want you to start with, okay? And it's important to start slow and listen to make sure that you're getting a good tone with each one of the notes. All right, hear those pitches and also getting you comfortable with finding a familiarity where you have your plucking hand, right? So this is your plucking hand, this is your fretting hand, where you're plucking the strings and gaining that muscle memory. All right, so eventually you can play it a little bit quicker, right? Again. And also, besides doing downstrokes, you can even do what we call alternate picking, where you're plucking up and down, which I was doing a second ago. All right. So get started with that exercise this week. Keep coming back to some of the things we've talked about. If you have any question, or if you're still unfamiliar, and if you want to start with doing lessons with me, feel free to send me a message. Feel free to subscribe to my channel. Give us a like, and I'll see you on the next video. All right.